After a thriller at the big circuit in Michigan, the ABN Champ Car World Series has returned once again for some short track racing for round 2 of the season. Welcome back on ABN. We're excited to bring you exclusive coverage here from the virtual Iowa Speedway. And tonight, 178 laps on the table. It's quite high lap count, but it's a very short circuit. High speeds, as we saw at tracks last season, such as Milwaukee and Richmond, are going to dominate the character of this race. And as it stands, 2 minutes left in practice before we move on to single car qualifying to open up tonight's event. I'm David Kreutz, joined tonight by your hosts in Taylor Mills and Olivia Hayward. And tonight's going to be an action-packed event, and we're only just getting started. Just under 20 drivers have registered to this point, with more still arriving as we speak. And now it's time to head down to the racing circuit to see what's going on here at this 7/8 mile track here in Newton, Iowa. Top time taken so far by Bryce Saucier, who was second in the race last week. It was his teammate Nicholas Pressey getting the victory, and it was a 1-2 run for the team Nicholas Pressey E-Motorsports. They start the season on top, and they're looking to bring that momentum into yet another race tonight. Lilac Zier going to be second on the qualifying charts if this were qualifying. Still, setting those qualifying, perhaps practice laps. Indica Scarlet going to be third, and some of the rookies up inside the top 5. It's a mix once again of old and new here in Iowa, and I think for the drivers who have come in for the first time this season, they don't quite know how it goes down with short track racing at this circuit, and I think maybe that experience is going to play into the favor of the veterans. So what's it going to take for these drivers, the Champ Car drivers, to get used to such fast cars at a quick circuit, and a short one at that?
They're just going to have to have put in as much time here in practice, I think, on the long run. I think obviously there's a little bit of finding the limit and sort of pushing the car the whole way that you've got to do here, but I have it in the notes here, and this is in all caps on the notes document we have. Look after the right front tyre, like I'm not kidding. It's a massive factor in this race. If you burn off that right front tyre, you try and push too hard in the first 5-10 laps, you'll never get it back, and you will just bleed time for the rest of the stint. And those drivers who can master the long run pace and maybe think 20, 30, 40, 50 laps ahead for when they come out on top. We saw last week the rookie drivers had some very strong racing at the front of the field, led a lot of laps, but the fuel strategy, that sort of long-term thinking, maybe not quite where they need it to be. And so if they want to try and carry that momentum forward here to a very different track, they're going to have that sort of long mindset to make things work.
Yeah, it's like night and day compared to the tracks that the track we were racing at last week and the track we're racing at this week. Michigan, massive 2.5 mile high banked oval. Iowa, you've still got those high banks, but you're basically racing in a bit of a bull ring. This is as close to the Chili Bowl as our Champ Car machinery is going to get. The walls are right there on corner exit and on corner entry. We're entering the corners at over 310 kilometers an hour, and if you miss your turning point, you're going to be at least a lane up higher than you might want to be, exiting at least a lane up higher than you want to be. And that's going to be the wall in this case, as qualifying does get underway here at Iowa Speedway.
Yeah, so throw everything I said out the window. Go hell for leather here. Get that time, get the car to the front of the field, because having that clean air might help a little bit. Keep that right front in check as we're on board with Eli Sasek here, as everyone gets their first laps on the board here in qualifying. First time in from Aaron Vogel at 18.035 in Indica Scarlet, with the first really strong time of 17.762, and Eli Sasek will slot in with a 9.01 into second place. But as we've seen many times with Champ Car, it can be lap 2, you get that sort of warm up, you get the tyres conditioned, and then you can send it as Indica Scarlet, which again we saw set a very quick lap 1, so it's an even better lap 2, 17.604.
Yeah, it's a little bit of wall contact at the start of that third lap for Indica there that's going to invalidate that run as she does come to a stop in the middle of turns 3 and 4. Nicholas Pressey then looks like he's coming out on track now to start his run. Your race winner from last week, set to take to the track and hopefully trying to follow up that form this week as he comes round turn 4 and exits the final corner to start his first qualifying lap. As Olivia mentioned, that first lap perhaps not the one where all the time's going to be, as Alex Miller goes to second on the board with a 17.6. Nick Pressey probably just setting up for that second or third lap or so. We've seen Pressey likes to take the alternate strategy in qualifying. Oh, it's contact with the wall though. Out of 4. The right hand side of the car slamming into the wall.
That was his last chance. Like Indica, he had to reset after lap 2 and just couldn't keep the car. But if he's a little shot, also into the wall, a massive hit on the inside.
But that's what I was
her qualifying run over for sure. It's 6th place. Nick Wheeler was 4th.
That's what I was alluding to with Nick Pressey. He likes to do those 2 kind of tyre runs where he does the 1 lap, the 2 lap, stops, resets, and goes back out on track again to try and get a couple of goes on some really well prepped rubber, but just not quite working out for it. Although saying that, he is currently 3rd on the grid, so that's nothing to shake a stick at.
Yeah, just looking for that tiny little bit extra, and obviously pushing it a bit too far as Lilac Zir now on lap 3 of the run. Currently in P10, but again, could be taking that slower approach. If 1 warm-up lap is good, maybe 2 is even better. Honestly, this is lap 2. 8.814. That'll be up into 7th place, and again, slowly ramping it up. Might be able to find some extra here on lap number 3, as most of our field has taken the checkered flag in the qualifying session. We still have 7 minutes left, obviously. It's a very short track. The laps pluck off very, very fast indeed.
It's Lilac looking like she's starting to struggle a little bit there. They were downshift in the middle of turns 1 and 2. She was laying down the gauntlet in practice and had the stack. Oh, she's gone for a spin! Iowa takes another bite out of our field. Another driver spinning through turns 3 and 4 on their qualifying lap and effectively ending their qualifying run. Lilac, who I said was laying down the gauntlet in practice, one of the fastest qualifying runs that we saw, not able to get to the top of the timing sheet this time, and she's going to start in 7th place. Other runs notwithstanding, of course.
Yeah, currently Matthew Kent, the only car out on track, as he will take the green flag to start lap number 1, and we may as well follow on board this whole way with the Bucky's 31 car. Not really seen too much from Matthew Kent in a while, but looking to prove himself a little bit here, and that's 18.043 for lap number 1. It's not really that impressive, but again, warm up into it on the backstretch here for lap number 2. Seeing the shifts again, was going into 4th gear through 1 and 2, again through 3 and 4. Struggling to get the car rotated in that mid corner, having to sort of open up the rear tyres, and even slower on lap number 2.
Yeah, Kent's got a long way to go if he wants to try and crack that top 5 at the moment. Currently that position is occupied by Bryce Saucier on a 17.7, but Matt Kent currently only sat on an 18.1. So that's, it doesn't sound like a lot of time, but on a track that's only 7/8 of a mile long, those, 4/10 of a second can feel like an absolute lifetime.
Matthew Kent making his first start in more than 2 years here. Lap racing at Pocono in season 2, and actually no, first career start in Champ Car was in practice for a couple of days, but never actually took the green flag. So whatever it is, it will be a personal best, I suppose, for Matthew Kent. But he will have to start from 15th place and make the moves up. Is now Edson Santos starting lap number 2, a very heavy hitter from last season, took a couple of podiums away. A slow lap 1, but a very experienced oval driver in this car, and he's set up well for lap number 2. Yes, he has 17.905, but it's only 14th. Might need to cool the tyres down a little bit to try and go for lap 4, but didn't have too many laps turned in practice, and maybe didn't have to work through the field and learn these conditions as the race goes on. And yeah,
he's given up on the lap over here. He's not he didn't think much of that second lap. He's lifted out, and I think he's going to cool down the tyres on this third,
this is the last lap. This is the end of his run now.
Oh, it's going to be,
maybe just using this as a bit of race practice now, but there's not too much fuel left in the car.
No, I think he's going to bring it down pit lane. I think that's going to be qualified done. I think it's safe to say that's a little bit of a disappointing performance for our pole sitter from last week. The one thing I did notice from Edson last week, though, is he didn't seem to do too well coming through the field. So starting 14th definitely wasn't in his mission plan today. As we do follow our Lord and Saviour, Carmen Sienna, out on the track for her first qualifying run.
All of them didn't get very much practice in, unfortunately. Fiddling with some stuff behind the scenes, but lap number 1 starting now, and this will be our final car. Zach McBride still has a couple laps in the pocket, but hasn't chosen to take them, and we'll see when we start from 11th. This is going to be final car to set the grid, and that is contest on lap 1. She's going to clip the timing loop to start lap 2. But if I were her, I'd probably park this thing now and get a clean run for laps 3 and 4.
Yeah,
Seems
you might
confident the
have
car's
got.
not too broken.
Yeah, but that's the thing. She may have got a little bit of damage from hitting the wall there. We know how sensitive these Champ Car machines can be. A little bit of bendy carbon fiber making up that front wing and those side pods. Even if you get a little bit of damage on that can cost you a good couple of tenths of a second per lap. And it's Iowa. Downforce is so important here as Carmen does pull in and gives up on that run. But yeah, with how important downforce is here, you want that car to be as clean and as aerodynamically put together as possible. And if you knocks the wing into the barrier, that's just not going to be the case for you.
Yeah, and now the problem is if Carmen does want to go back out and make another attempt at lap 4, there is no practice lap for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as Santos does take the checker plan and use this time for a bit more practice, Carmen will drop, but has to get the car perfect, just coming through turns 3 and 4 here. Try and build as much speed as possible on this high side, and then see if she can move up from where she's currently last on the grid, which is a safe place to start, but it's not where you aspire to start, you know?
No, and it was tricky as well. There's not many. It's difficult to overtake here. The track's so small and so tight. It's difficult to build those runs down the front and back stretch. And as we've seen in the real life races before, the higher lines don't really open up the opportunities to make those moves work either. But of course, we're hoping for something a little bit different from our virtual Champ Car field here tonight, and we'll keep our fingers crossed for some good racing.
Yeah, and of course, the main difference between the track that we have in the sim right now and the real life version that we just saw this last weekend, that repave on the low side of the banked turns seems to have really improved that bottom lane, but with no benefit to the higher lanes right now. It kind of funnels everyone into that single groove, and it's very difficult to make things happen. I know the plans in the real world are to try and repave the entire track up on the high sides as well in the coming years, and that might revitalize that high side and that multi-groove racing. But we have no repave here, so every lane is tough. Every lane is difficult to make it work on, and it means you can make moves, but you've got to work for them. You got to set them up, because it is so easy to misjudge it if you're on an alternate line here. But that will be qualifying complete. Commentator stayed on the back row but overtook Caleb Carter. But into Scarlett, a rookie, starting from pole position alongside Alex Miller in the 49 car.
Yeah, it's interesting because coming into that, Alex Miller has been very glum about his chances at short ovals. So to go out there and set a lap good enough for P2 is really quite impressive. And that is not biased speaking, I promise.
Well, as we get into our 10-minute warm-up session, this gives us a perfect opportunity to start talking about predictions. So, who wants to go first?
You know what? As a change, I'll go first. And I know I just said that there's no bias from my side, but I'm just going off historical data. I'm just looking back at last season and the last season short tracks. I think my pick for tonight is going to be Lilac Zir of Taylor Mills Racing. We know she's got a very, very good head on her shoulders, and she can race extraordinarily intelligently from anywhere in the field. And if you look back at the short tracks from last week, I think just as an example to kind of take my data from was New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Flatter corners, but you still got that same tyre scrub, that difficulty with overtaking. And she was on the podium that weekend, or that week, behind Hamilton Akabuzzi and Austin Farr, which is absolutely no mean feat. So without those two in competition today, it could be that 89 car that enters victory lane here today.
I am very glad that you mentioned Lila, because I was considering putting her as my pick, but then I thought, let's go for maybe a bit more of an underdog, someone who might fly under the radar a touch.
Yeah, I did last week.
And Lyle's very good in fuel-safe races, right? And this could be a fuel-safe race like Richmond was last season. But if it ends up being that sort of flat-out affair, where you don't need to worry too much about strategy, someone who I've seen do really well at this sort of track and more technical things where that road course experience starts to come into play is the 97 of Frankie Wynn for Mariah United VRT. I've seen his running a lot in officially the last couple of seasons at Iowa, and although it's been those sort of fixed sprint races where there's less strategy to worry about, he's been very, very successful, and that car control has been unparalleled. The real concern and the question for that driver fighting for the Rookie of the Year honours is, if this does turn to a strategy race, is he prepared to pivot and to make the adjustments? Because we saw that team as a whole and the rookie group as a whole struggle with that last week at Michigan. But if he can surmount that hurdle, I think he's got a great shot for a podium or maybe even a win here.
Even with that inexperience, I'll just cut in to say here quickly, and Mariah United VRT have managed to come out of the opening round of the championship in third place in the teams. So there's a real opportunity for them to build off that current third place, get all those things figured out, like different strategies you see like they're spinning in the background there, and maybe even mount a championship challenge towards the end of the season. But David, we did lock you out a little bit in qualifying there, but your opinion is still important to us. Who's your pick for today's race?
I feel like you guys touched upon perhaps two of the most important drivers to look at all throughout this race. So, you know what? I think I'm going to go for something a little bit different. Someone we might not have in mind, and it's come to me just looking over what we've seen, and it has me wondering maybe this is the right driver to pick before, of course, we get back to the racing in just a few minutes' time. Now, I was hearing your description of Frankie Wynn, and it had me thinking of another driver, someone who maybe does better in a situation where the strategy isn't the most important thing to keep in mind, maybe comes down to higher speed circuits, and maybe even a track under a mile in length. So for the 97, I have my eyes peeled on 8th in this practice session right now, Lily Peltier-Sharp. Perhaps maybe not the most expected driver to pick. We have seen some success out of this 8-team team at the smaller circuits beforehand, and I think maybe one of the drivers to hang with the field in the first half and come to strike in the final 20 to 30 laps if, of course, attrition isn't much an issue. I wouldn't be surprised to see Lily up at the front of the field.
It's a bold choice, David. I will warn you, she did let me down last week.
That's true.
I've also realised that we have picked the drivers starting 6th, 7th and 8th on the grid, so we'll have to see how that group works their way forwards and kind of snubs the cars with good qualifying. I mean, Nicholas Pressey won last week, and there's an area mentioned from her.
I mean,
I think we're all trying to be too interested at this point.
We all
like one of those drivers to be very strong.
Yeah, we like to go for our little off-centre picks, but I think it's quite interesting though that Lily Peltier-Sharp has come up twice in 2 weeks at two very different circuits. I think it calls to when her head is in the game, like when she is properly switched on. I think it calls to just how adaptable she can be as a driver. So as long as she can keep her head screwed on tonight, make smart choices throughout the entirety of the race, I think there's a good chance that she could come out with the win today.
Like I said last week, and something that she agreed on me with in DMs at that moment, sort of drive that brings back either the trophy or the steering wheel. And unfortunately, we saw last week bringing back just the steering wheel, but there's always that threat. And of course, the win at New Hampshire, I believe it was, or no, the win at Milwaukee last season, that was sort of the statement moment of her season.
It was, yeah.
It's a very different track, much higher banking, but obviously still that short track car control is a huge factor. I mean, who knows? We have 4 minutes left in this warm-up session before we'd have to start making guesses and start making active reads on what everyone's doing.
Yeah, I still think back to that Milwaukee race. Was it the Milwaukee race that we were just talking about? My brain sometimes just...
Yeah, Milwaukee.
It still surprises me that there were no team orders at play for that team during that race, because Lilac Zing was in with a shot at the championship, and of course
Lily wasn't that far out. You gotta think. Lily was in a must-win situation, but
we were so close to the end of the championship that perhaps from a team perspective, you look at that and go, right, let's put all our eggs in this one basket and try and really push for it. And, I mean, it wasn't a great Arrowhead 500 for Lilacs here, but her life would have been made so much easier if Pelletier Sharp and that entire team had made that call to maybe give that win to Lilacs here. But I think we both know that behind the scenes, that was one of the turning points that I think led to Lilac leaving for this season.
I think it's a much easier call to make if it's a battle for P2 or a battle for P3.
Mm-hmm.
I think once you're talking about a race win on the line, even if a team principal is there and a team principal wants to make that call, which a lot of times you aren't going to want to put your finger on the scales that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's very unlikely that it's poised in one area and out the other for any racing driver who has eyes on a statement win or just any sort of outside shot at a championship. I think it's expected from a lot of teams here. I think if it was similar situation with MPM sort of late in the season, I could see it going the same way. But of course they're hoping for it to be 1 versus 2 and they can go at it on their own in a duel for the title as they are currently in the standings. But we're seeing it still some drivers struggling to get a handle on this track, sort of plumes of smoke as incidents happen. This is one thing that we were talking about. The fact that right front is such a concern means you want to try and do as much of the work as possible with the rear tyres and with the aero. You want to try and have the car set up as pointy as possible so you don't have to turn the wheel very much, you don't have to scrub that right front to get the car rotated. But there's a very, very fine balance as we've seen many times, even last season. Sort of mistakes from Emily Howe chasing down Alvin Cabrese, for example, or I think we're going to see it a lot here tonight of drivers trying to get the car rotated, trying to save that tyre, and just going a touch too far on the adjustments, on that weight jacker, on the roll bars. And we can see a lot of sort of solo spins on the entry of 1 and maybe on the exit of turn 4, maybe the exit of turn 2, that would cause a lot of calamity for some drivers, I think.
Yeah, as you say, Liv, we know that low line is the favoured line here at Iowa, even in sim without that repaving. But the one thing I don't think we've mentioned, and it's the one thing I always question myself over every time we come here, but I do believe Iowa is a little bit progressively banked. So you do
between 12 and 14, just a touch.
So you have that slightly higher banking on the outside line, and so we have a couple of drivers in the field, including I want to say P2 on the grid, Alex Miller, who we know loves to run that top lane when he can. So if he can keep his nose in all of that clean air tonight, and just keep his nose clean and look after that front right by not scrubbing it so much on that low line, he may drop back a little bit in early stints, but if we get a really long green flag run, he's going to have a really good front right tyre underneath him, and he's going to be able to make all those positions back up, I reckon.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see that again. Last week we saw a lot of the rookies lunge to the front of the field, sort of make that play early, but then it fall back against them at the end, and I think we're going to see that a lot stronger here tonight, even if there's no question about fuel windows, which there very well still could be. Drivers who've dropped back a little bit at the start could have a massive advantage later in the stint.
Everyone, good luck. Remember, pit lane off at 3 on green flag pit stop. Let's have a clean race in the fast pairs. Let's see everyone get to at least the halfway point.
And it looks like now, practice, qualifying, all come to a close, and the drivers lining up at the end of pit road. Just about 18 have registered for tonight's event, and they're all with us here, getting ready to roll out in just a few moments' time. How about we get to know the field from top to bottom in your starting grid here from the virtual Iowa Speedway. And it's another rookie, very impressive to kick this one off. How about Indica Scarlett with a 17.604 to the pole position right beside Alex Miller, leading for the pole position by 93 one-thousandths of a second over Miller's number 49. Third place is then going to go immediately thereafter to Nicholas Pressey, who won last week, and it looks like he will be starting at the end of the field and missed the start of the race. He's on pit road right now, will be dropping to the back with Nick Wheeler, position number 4 in the number 4 car. Bryce Saucier going to be net 5th, and Frankie Wynn then in 6th. 7th is going to go from there to Lilac Zier, 8th to Lily Pelletier Sharp, and to round out the top 10 just beyond the number 18, both drivers, 9th and 10th, Joshua Gaiman and Eli Sasek.
Very strong mix of experience on the 6th and 7th row. Series veteran Zach McBride alongside Aaron Vogel making a second career start. And then the debut Scott Sprinkle in 13th place alongside Season 5 heavy hitter Edson Santos. Then it's back to Zach Mitchell, Matthew Kent, Carmen Sienna and Caleb Carter. Rounding out your 18-car field here tonight in Newton, Iowa.
We always know Carmen enters these races with a point to prove, not quite a chip on her shoulder, but she's always got that big drive to do well. So if there's going to be a driver to keep an eye on at the start of this race, I think it's going to be that 96 car, because she's going to start moving forward the second she can.
And we saw that last week as well, going quite aggressive on strategy early, staying out under a caution to try and offset herself. But then obviously the stayed on pit road. Another thing, pit road have to enter on the backstretch here by series rules. It's a very tough entry. We've seen cars make mistakes on and off pit road over the years, and could be another threat of this happening tonight.
And so the iRacing official pace car drops down to pit road for the first time tonight, and rookie Indica Scarlett getting to call to lead the field to green for the first time here in Newton, Iowa. We are racing with the Champ Car World Series.
A big mistake from Lilac Zier on that initial start, getting some wheel spin and shuffling to the back now, down 8 positions already. Make that 9, but again, maybe a little bit of patience being seen here. Maybe she sees that mistake, that wheel spin, and decides to play the slow game. Nicholas Pressey, of course, chose to start from pit lane, drop back 15 spots, but is on the back of the field here. And biggest movers upwards so far, Zach McBride and Scott Sprinkle up 4 spots each, as is Caleb Carter, but you see them fan out through turns 3 and 4 there, trying to test out different lines, see what will keep their tyres in check the most. And again through 1 and 2, scattering across different lines. Lilac Zier now pointing the nose, trying to get a couple positions back up, but we're running on board with that 44 of Carter. And again, you see in the bottom picture Lilac Zier starting to make a run through the field once again.
Yeah, a little bit of aggression already behind the visor of the driver of that number 89 car. I don't think I've ever seen her drive like that. Going for all of these moves straight away. She is desperate to make up those positions that she lost off the start. Making it almost 3 wide through turns 3 and 4. And already, maybe a little bit of, well, I say door-to-door contact. These cars don't have doors, but here we are. A little bit of door-to-door contact with the driver on her outside. But really trying to push that inside line to try and make up positions. As she's just giving a squeeze to the outside there, but hugs the inside line once again, burning up that rubber all the time she spends down here, trying to make those moves, as that's a big lane change from the car in front of her, almost chops the front nose off. But she does use that as an opportunity to try and make that move stick into turns 1 and 2. A little bit of space for her to move up if she wants to, but Zach Mitchell's going to close that door really quickly, but Lilac goes for it anyway, and there's contact! Zach Mitchell loses, well, it looks like he lost his front end, but he's fallen back now, with a little bit of contact from right rear to left rear on Lilac Zier's car there. That was almost a big wreck.
Yeah, and Lilac Zier clears. Scott Sprinkle had a bit of contact on lap 2 with Lily Pelletier Sharp already. Almost rubbing bumpers as close as you can get in these cars. It seems like everyone still in one piece, but a lot of aggression early as we are not 10 laps into this race. And out front, it's still in Scotland, Alex Miller, trying to break away and hold on to that clean air for as long as possible.
Caleb Carter then looking to make that move on Eli Sasek for P12. Made it work on Petra. Oh, but gets a little bit wider. There's contact. Sasek's round. That might be our first caution of the night, and it is.
Bassett keeps it off the wall. And I think that first caution will be 0 casualties, and we will wrap them all up and get going again.
Have a look at the replay here. Eli Sasek, all the way out there on the outside line, cuts it down just a touch, but Caleb getting a little bit of a wiggle on the inside, just sends that champ car up to that outside line that was being occupied by Eli Sasek even. Contact with the left rear of his car and spins him around, and yeah, as you said, look, really impressive to not hit that wall or didn't even scrape it with the front wing.
Yeah, great control from Sasset to spin the car in almost in a straight line, and from everyone behind who managed to scatter, and especially, oh no, Matthew Kent had a big hit of the wall, avoiding, but might have just about gotten away with it. But from everyone sort of doing the best that they can in that sort of situation. You see a couple of cars come down pit road here. It'll be the 77, the 94, the 69, the 31, and the 9. A lot of cars who are caught up in that, or maybe just coming in for a bit of a top up on fuel. And yeah, reach up and field slightly. And it looks like 31 will have to take a little bit of extra repair here, but we'll get rolling again after about 22 seconds.
Yeah, we're just watching the replay there from the number 31 of Matt Kent. It's going to be interesting to see just if we can catch the steering wheel once he gets on the one of the straights here, to see how bent that steering is. Of course, you do run a little bit of offset here at Iowa if you can, just to try and reduce some fatigue on your shoulders. And yeah, you know what? That car looks relatively straight. So even with that wall contact, I think Matt Kent's still in this race.
Yeah, of course. One thing to remember about a lot of these racetracks, it's that they had that safe barrier installed in the early 2000s. And I believe here it is all the way around. Some tracks only have it in the corners, but especially for short tracks and sort of higher speed tracks, they very much put that work into, but it's actually, with it opening in 2006, probably was built with that in mind.
100%, yeah. We are well into the safer barrier era in 2006, where most, if not all, of the new tracks, oval tracks being built in the US did have safer barrier all the way around, or do have safer barrier all the way around.
And although it's not modeled like fully in iRacing with that sort of deformation, there's definitely a difference between hitting a safer barrier versus a tyre bundle versus a concrete wall. Of there's going to be a bit more forgiving with that damage applied to the car, and I think we're seeing that from that 31 of Matthew Kent as the cars form up. Double file for our first restart of the night.
So it's going to be another opportunity for Alex Miller to try and jump into Cascala. But I think what we didn't really talk about just before we do get going green again here is that gap that Indica was able to build to the rest of the field. Like, it was 0.8 of a second, but we talked about in qualifying how 0.4 of a second is quite a lot. So 0.8 is quite a big chunk as well. It's throwing a good amount of dirty air at the cars behind you, and you've still got all that clean air out in front of you. And Indica left herself very not under threat from anyone else in the field. Good driving.
His car pulls in, and Indica has control of the field, and gets a good jump on Alex Miller. The field behind with a nice clean getaway, but they're still double file into turn 1, and already the 44 car trying to make some moves happen on this high side, and clears Aaron Vogel as well, 4P10, and they are slotting through Alex Miller. Again, didn't manage to get onto the back of Indica, but holds on 4P2 right now. And our biggest gainer currently, after Carter's up to 8 spots to 10th, Edson Santos, not struggling in traffic at all, getting up to 7th already in the first 15 laps.
Yeah, it's just following Carmen Sienna, applying that pressure to Aaron Vogel in front. Not able to make it work this time, but Nicholas Pressey, who did stop under the caution, is now keeping her company. Trying to take that low line away where he can, but not able to build a run quite yet. Maybe waiting for his tyres to warm up. Shouldn't take too long, but there is a little bit of a tyre disparity between these two cars at the moment. But Pressey just getting a little bit loose mid-corner, drops some speed on exit as his car gets shuffled backwards a little bit towards Eli Sasek, who's been a little bit more patient, but of course doesn't want to stick behind Nicholas Pressey if he can help it.
Yeah, Eli Sasek was caught up in that last incident. I think to a change of tyre to just, get rid of the flat spots that were sort of put onto it there. Car looked in one piece other than that, but has to make up these spots. Has fresh tyres, has the extended fuel tank. It's going to maybe try and play the long game to make that happen, not force anything right now. As you see ahead, Nicholas Pressey goes to the inside of Carmen Sienna, and Eli going to try and follow if possible, but actually it's Carmen who has to run off the corner, and that's the gap that Eli's going to look for.
50 degrees Celsius, 123 degrees Fahrenheit track temperature, making that low line really difficult to utilize the grip of. Of course, the rubber on that inside line effectively melting when you run over it. So the grip to support Pressey's move just not there when he needed it, and Carmen, with all the momentum on the outside, was able to just hold on.
And we have the 77 of Sprinkle into pit lane. I'm not quite sure why.
I did see a little puff of smoke just earlier. I'm just trying to see if we can get a replay of that. I saw a puff of smoke of a car hitting the wall. I think that was Scott Sprinkle just there. So that could be a bit of bent suspension, and the 77 just calling their day there. Yeah, they have disconnected as well, so they've called their race early.
And as we were looking at that, a bit of a repeat of last week, but this time Carmen Sienna getting up into the wall on the front stretch. Eli Sasek not able to avoid in time, a little bit of contact, but again, both cars seem to get away with it just a bit, but that is not the start Sasek would have wanted in this race. Already chaos, really, from all directions. And Carmen Sienna looking to recover again, but down in P15, making that slow climb up the field and into the wall. It looks like Zach Mitchell might have followed as well.
Yeah, that's the Australian Zach Mitchell just dooring the wall a little bit, but it's a little bit of damage on Carmen Sienna. She doesn't look quick right now as her and Zach Mitchell go side by side in the run down to turn 3. Mitchell, with all of the speed on the outside, makes that move stick, and that shuffles down Carmen Sienna to second last of the running cars at the moment, only ahead of the number 31 of Matt Kent, who's really fallen off the back of the pack here.
And if that's damage on the right front, it is just going to compound all of those issues with tyre wear that we were talking about. And this thing can go from bad to worse very quickly for the 96 car.
Yeah, Carmen will now be praying for another caution, and hopefully soon, so she can get her race back on track. But yeah, series rookie Zach Mitchell doing really well to keep out of her way there, and is looking to try and close that gap to Nick Pressey and get involved with this fight for P11. Speaking of Nick Pressey, though, looking to the inside on Zach McBride, side by side on entry to turn 1. The grip is there for him on the inside of that corner this time. Runs the car back out to the wall, but McBride with a little bit of a run down the back stretch, but the momentum not enough to make anything work on this particular occasion. Pressey hunting for that clean air on the outside and trying to keep that front right in check, and he is going to make that move stick and keep the position on Zach McBride, who is now falling back into the clutches of fellow Zach, the number 69 of Mitchell.
Further up the field, Bryce Socia in the white and green car clears Alex Miller in the green and white car for second place.
That car is green and black, I'll have you know.
Green, black and white, fair enough. But again, we're seeing, I think for these front runners, trying to settle into a bit of a holding pattern and to really play the long game on these tyres. Gaiman's up 5, up into 4th position. But it's further back where we're seeing people throw haymakers, really. Got a side-by-side between Edson Santos and Lily Peliche Shop that could have very nearly ended disaster, and Lilac Zir wants in the party as well now. Back up to just one spot below starting position, and Edson Santos almost clears himself there, just about ahead of the wind of Lily Peliche Sharp, and Lilac Zir will follow, as I think 18 a little spooked by that one.
Yeah, that's one of those things that's going to really, really frustrate a driver. The last thing you want when you're doing almost 300 kilometers an hour mid-corner is another car to be bumping and banging against you and unsettling that car. So just keep an eye on Pelletier Sharp, because she's now got to recover and try and get that position back. But Lilac Zir looking really racy with Edson Santos, trying to get that P6 of him on that low line where there is a lot of clean air for her at the moment. but not able to carry any of the speed on exit of 4. Has to check up a little bit and slot back into line for now, but Zia has been looking really racy so far tonight.
And you've got to think, she was sat behind, she saw that entire exchange happen, and so I think what she's thinking is, okay, I see how the 20 wants to race. If I need to get my elbows out and try and sort of force a bit of a slider to get the move done, then maybe that's what I'll do.
One thing that surprised me a little bit right now, though, is back at the front of the field, Miller's not really dropping off the back of Bryce Saucier. I noticed during that first green flag run, Saucier was really struggling to get past the number 49 car, but has managed to do it with relative ease this time by. And yeah, just surprisingly, Miller hasn't dropped off the back of him yet. He's been using that clean air where he can, and is preferring the low line in today's race, which is something I definitely didn't expect either. But these cars able to run nose to tail pretty well, as Miller looking to that inside line and does get alongside and pulls the wheel up alongside Bryce Saucier this time, but no momentum on that low side right now. But if you can keep that pressure on, and the yellow flag is out.
And where will that be? It looks like it is the number 11 of Zach McBride. And we'll have to get a replay and see what happened to that car in the tri-oval.
Yeah, he was being followed by Zach Mitchell through turns 3 and 4. They almost come together on corner exit. Both of them into the wall, but McBride a lot harder than Mitchell on this particular occasion and goes for a spin, comes to a stop on track and does bring out our second caution of the night.
Not helped, not pushed after that contact by Zach Mitchell. The car just independently snapping to that inside line, to that apron. And yeah, coming towards lap 40, I would expect that to be everyone in, get their first of 5 additional tyre sets onto the car, top up the fuel tank, and maybe start to calculate the fuel number and say, can we stretch this?
A very artsy camera shot as we have the cars slowly coming into focus for the race off pit lane in what is a very, very tight pit lane. So it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top in this particular occasion. All the cars pulling over, driving through each other, because this is virtual to make those stops happen, as the whole field holds its breath as we hold our breath waiting for something to happen. And it's going to be Indica Scarlet first off pit lane, followed by Bryce Saucier. I think Alex Miller just got off in front of Josh Gaiman there. Nick Wheeler maintains P5. Santos and Zia should have maintained as well, by the look of things. No, Zia beat Santos off pit lane. So that puts Santos back under threat from Lily Pelletier Sharp. I don't, never mind their reshuffling position. Lilac Zia did not quite beat Edson Santos off pit lane.
Yeah, so obviously you get to the line and then you get the call from race control, shuffling the order, making sure it's correct. Nick Wheeler did out of pit road ahead of us with a 7.6 second stop. Quite extraordinary from the number 4 crew. It does look like everyone has taken tyres here. Zach McBride and Carmen Sienna both taking the extended stops to come in and fit some additional damage. But it looks like the 44 of Carter is back down pit road to take some additional service.
Was that damage on the 44 at all, or just a little bit of strategy?
Hey, I think this might be a strategy player, as I mentioned, seeing if we can stretch this. Maybe that's what the 44's thinking. Now, as we restart, it'll probably be 135 laps to go. You'd have to run about 67, 68 laps on fuel. My notes have the window at 50 to 65. So, it's not out of the realm of imagination, but it's going to be tough to pull that off.
Yeah,
and
it's going to require...
we're seeing the 44 come down to top off to try and make something happen there. We're seeing Carmen Sienna and Zach McBride respond in kind now, coming down pit road as the field gets to double file on the 1 to green. It'll need to be 69 laps each stint, I think. Or at least for one of them. That's a tough number to make.
It is, but I feel like these drivers are going to be hoping for a late caution. We've already seen this is caution number 3, I think, at this point.
Caution number 2.
Caution number 2, okay. I'm not that optimistic, it seems. But caution number 2 for the night, so these guys hoping for another one to try and make that strategy work on this particular occasion.
Yeah, then we I'd say McBride took a little bit more service there. And he might struggle to catch the field here as they're already into turn 3. And as opposed to our pull off, it'll be for the 3rd time tonight into Scarlet on the inside. But Bryce Associate on the outside this time. And we go green once again. Oh, wheel spin from
Everyone.
number 4 of Nick Wheeler.
Yeah, no, it was wheel spin from everyone on that restart game and managing to take advantage of that one. But Nick Wheeler is dropping almost like a stone through the field, losing out to Santos, Gaiman, Zia, Pelletier Sharp looking like they want to make a move around the outside as well. Santos, though, does slide by Josh Gaiman. He's managed to carry no momentum off that restart and is coming under threat from everyone else as well. Santos cutting down to take the air off Gaiman's nose, and Gaiman and Zia almost come together on the exit of turn 2 there. But Zia does manage to make it stick and is already putting the number 20 of Santos under pressure. I think she wants to make her way up into that top 4.
I think the word I'd use right now is swarm. I know we had last about a B-sounding car coming to an oval track, but right now this is the swarm that seems a lot more dangerous, a hornet's nest almost. And it'll be Bryce Sosa and Alex Miller getting back in after Nick Wheeler got all the way to 7th from that restart in 3rd, but up 10 positions now. Number 20 of Edson Santos, 1 spot off the podium, and we've seen the pace in that car, and now a little bit clean air, but with Lila Zir looking on the offensive behind.
Carried some momentum off the exit of turns 3 and 4 and does make the move into 1 and 2 this time by. Just squeezing him up into the wall on the exit of 2, and the caution's already back out before Lilac can make another attempt at that move.
And it looks like it is the 44 of Carter, maybe hoping for an additional caution to make the fuel strategy work. Instead, is the one who brings it out, and that will be day done for the 44 car.
I don't actually see that that incident on my replays, but I think we are going to get a cheeky little replay here. Just waiting for it to happen, basically, at this point.
So trailing the Zach Mitchell in the 69 car here, 3 and 4, setting up a move on the high side, and then ducks low through the tri-oval, tries to make the move into 1 and the apron.
Oh, that'll do it. Zach Mitchell being used as a ramp for the 2nd time in 2 weeks. Yeah, that's Caleb Carter just running over the nose of Zach Mitchell. Mitchell losing his front left wing there with the contact with the 44.
And that might be a bit more than that, unfortunately. Looks like the rear left tyre handing off. So after 2 cautions that might keep everyone rolling, that one claims 2 champ car machines, and I feel we're down to 15, or at least 15 cars in strong contention. But I cannot imagine either of those cars is gonna be able to pull back out of the pits here tonight.
You can run low at Iowa, you can get all the way down to that yellow line, but you do not go under it. The difference in banking between, you know what, for a second I forgot the word for the apron, but here we are. The difference in banking between the banking and the apron is so severe that it just completely detaches the downforce underneath the car, because these cars produce a lot of downforce underneath them. So once you break that seal, car goes, you're into a spin, completely out of your control. And with that jolt on the suspension as well, it's not the sort of thing that these cars are designed to handle. And Caleb Carter really learning that the hard way here tonight, but unfortunately does take series rookie Zach Mitchell with him.
And something I am very surprised to see here. No takers down pit road other than, of course, the 2 cars having to come in for service and end their day. We made the calculation saying maybe 68, 69 laps per stint to make it to the end of the race. By the time we go back to green, it'll be closer to 63, 64, and that is in that potential fuel window. It might be tough, but if you can be the one car to make that work and no one else can, that is a massive advantage. You can lose 2 laps here. 2 laps if you have to pit under green. So try out one of those stops, and that could be a huge advantage as long as you can hold on to the tyres. But
I was going to say
anyone wants to take that gamble?
Yeah, that was going to be my next point, is they have to go this long on the fuel tank, but it's kind of forgetting the fact they have to go that long on the tyre as well. Realistically, can the front right tyre hold up to 60-odd laps of punishment at 300 kilometers an hour? I mean, there's only one way to find out, and that's to go green and see what these guys do towards the end of this race.
It depends who's behind the wheel. If you've got a really skilled driver behind the wheel, then yes, but I think the main thing we're looking at here, and the main culprit of who we think would go for that strategy, Lilac Zir, sitting up in 4th position, has no real need to take that risk right now, and so is going to wait it out a little bit and just try and play London, or maybe after knocking it in map 8 laps, try and make it happen from here. But we see the TMR cars on row 2, the same place they finished last time out in Michigan, but ahead into Scarlet, still leading this field the whole way, and will restart for the 3rd time tonight.
Oh no!
no.
Santos instantly ran. Oh goodness me, that's a big one. I never thought I'd say the words big one at Iowa, but we've just had the big one at Iowa. I can't even count how many cars were involved in that one.
I am seeing 6 new cars with meatballs after that.
And
Alex
it's all
Miller
from
just
that
came
wheel
over-
spin that we'd seen from some people there.
Yeah, Alex Miller just came over the radio to say that's the whole damn field. Wow.
The number 20 of Edson Santos tried to get the restart down, I think on the 3rd row, and just hooked it upwards, just missing the 89 of Violet Zir, but then rebounding out into, I think that's Josh Gaiman, and
Yeah.
it's everyone behind.
Yeah,
The cars
Pelletier
directly
shot.
have no chance to avoid. The cars at the back of the field have to do a hell of a job to navigate. And from a very experienced driver, we unfortunately see
Yeah, down pit lane.
it's a very unfortunate patent. And now we've got a thinner field, it's easier to jump back and get our fuel save. But that is the 4 of Nick Wheeler, the 9 of Eli Sasser, the 18 of Louis Pelletier Sharp, the 20 of Edson Santos, the 61 of Joshua Gaiman, and last week's winner, the 94 of Nicholas Pressey, all down pit lane and out of this race.
Championship implications in round 2 already. But yeah, it's rare of Edson Santos to make a mistake like that. I'm quite surprised by that, to be honest. But as you mentioned, we've seen how our drivers have been struggling with the restarts here, and it's because the banking it's quite steep on the front stretch. And when you get on the power, if you get a little bit of wheel spin, as soon as that rear loses traction, all it wants to then do is get acted. Well, it gets acted on by gravity and just gets pulled down that banking. So you see a lot of the time, the back end will step out to driver's left, and that's exactly what happened to Edson Santos. The car pitched to the right, near into the back of Lilac Zir, and then noses straight into the wall. Then Pelletier Sharp trying to avoid behind, but just kind of reacting as any driver would in that situation across the nose of last week's race winner Nicholas Pressey, and that's just wow. It's an impressive wreck, but it's not a fun one.
So a couple of cars in that pit cycle took tyres only. That would be fuel only. That'd be Carmen Sienna, Aaron Vodal, and Zach McBride. Your running order of all 9 cars remaining in this race. The field's now cut in half after that 6-car incident on the previous restart. It'll be Indica Scarlett, Alex Miller, Bryce Socia, Matthew Kent, Carmen Sienna, Aaron Vodal, Lilac Zir, Frankie Wynn, and Zach McBride remaining in this race.
So that's going to guarantee a new winner for the season here tonight in Champ Car Season 6, which is an exciting prospect, but we've still got over 100 laps to go here. And we've seen some really good racing from this field so far. So I do feel like the drivers are going to put on a bit of a show for us, but with the amount of cars that are left, I don't think it's going to require that same amount of aggression as we've seen from a lot of the drivers so far here tonight. So touch wood, fingers crossed, rub your lucky rabbits for whatever good luck charm you need. We may be able to go green to the end of the race here.
Especially with the less cars you have on the track, the fewer rolls of the dice there are, for instance, per lap, essentially. And I think maybe that's why we saw everyone come down and make sure their tank was full from here, because not only is it a lot easier to make from here, we're talking more like 60 laps in. Much easier proposition there, just a little bit of save, just not pushing it too hard into the corners, and it should be able to come to you. But also, there's a much higher probability that is the proposition here. One stop to the end with 2 full fuel tank stints, 2 full tyre stints. And I think if you come out with a lot of aggression here and that caution doesn't come, you're going to be suffering heavily for it in the second half of the stint.
And breathe. Fortunately, they haven't really given us the opportunity to do so far, but we appreciate that. We love a good race here on ABN as the field enter turns 3 and 4 for our 4th restart of the night. I'm losing track.
4th restart, 5th.
Restart.
5th if you include the initial.
Pace car looking to pull in this time by then. Indica Scarlet will lead the field alongside Alex Miller once again. Her restarts have been absolutely perfect all night so far, and it's going to be another really good restart again. As look at that, she's already cleared the field by 4 or 5 car lengths, and Bryce Saucier looking to challenge Alex Miller for P2 right off the bat, not being able to carry the momentum on the low side this time by, but that's everyone waiting for those tyres to come up to temperature. Miller sweeping back down to the inside in front of Saucier to hold on to that position, getting a little bit of a wiggle on exit, and is starting to close that gap to Indica Scarlet almost straight away. But what's going on deeper in the field, Liv?
We've got a lot of battling here. Carmen Sienna tried to jump past for 4th position. Now Aaron Vogel, Matthew Kent, Frankie Wynn, all under a blanket. Behind us, a bit of battle between Lilac Zir and Zach McBride. And yeah, just really bunching up the entire field. Too early to tell how many of these cars are trying to fight past the 96, or how many are happy to sit here and do a little bit of tyre save and wait for it to sort itself out in the next 20 or so laps. But Vodal will clear, get back up into 4th position, and Frankie Wynn, the teammate at Mirror United BRT, will try and follow on the low side here.
Yeah, Vogel not happy to wait, as you were saying. Olivia pulls down aggressively into turn 3. Frankie Wynn might be able to copy that move sooner rather than later. Cuts down towards the exit. Carmen Sienna getting up into the wall on exit, dragging that car alongside along the safer barrier on the front stretch, allowing everyone behind her to come through, and that's going to be the cork in the bottle as the field starts to make its way towards those top 3 podium positions.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect damage on that 96 car. Maybe after that additional touch, but it just bleeds off all the speed. It's a lot harder to cut through foam than it is to cut through air. So, Sienna down to 8th, just with Matthew Kent running behind now. But up front, it is still those cars fanned out. Lilac Zir behind Zach McBride. The Mirror United duo in 4th and 5th. But it's Alex Miller now ahead of Bryce Saucier still. To 07, round out the podium. But into Scarlet, having led all 63 laps of this race so far, if I'm not mistaken, continuing to hold pace out front.
It's that 0.8 of a second gap that she's managed to maintain the entire way so far. Helped out for the most part by Miller and Saucier constantly fighting for that P2 behind us. So perhaps there should be a little bit of thought there that they should, slot into line, settle into rhythm together, and try and make their way up to the back of that number 66 car. But of course, Miller and Saucier aren't teammates. They were fighting for the race win last week in Michigan, so I don't expect them to even float the idea in their own heads of working together to try and work forward. They want to beat each other right now.
And of course we did lose Nicholas Pressey, but Bryce Saucier we saw be the catalyst for the move that launched MPM to that 1-2 last week. Didn't have to fly this one solo, but still had a great shot at it in TMR, who again was second in the standings coming into this race. Both cars still in contention, so it could be an opportunity for that team to move up. But again, Mirror United as well, both cars still in contention. They came in 3rd, we mentioned this in the pre-show. And so it's looking like it could tighten up the team standings battle a hell of a lot. But the 07 is going to look to try and minimise that damage as much as possible.
I mean, we have a long way to go in this championship, so the drivers and team standings are going to change a lot over the course of the next goodness knows how many races, because we're going here until
I think another 15 races we've got on the calendar.
well, there you go. We've got 15 races to for that order to change, and it looks like it is going to make a change tonight if everything stays as it is. TMR will jump to the top of the standings, and I believe Saucier may jump Pressy if he holds P3 here. So yeah,
it's a
it's
10-point difference between first and second race finish, 50 versus 40. I think the gap between 12th and, well, currently P3 is a hell of a lot more than that. But if there's a mistake from the 07, not only with that torpedo MPM's running today and a chance to hold on to that championship lead, but it also potentially give Pressy the upper hand in that battle.
But even in terms of saying that, it may do that, but it only does that so far. 15 races is a lot. That's like an entire older Formula 1 season before we went to 24 races. So a championship can be decided in 15 races. So don't count your chickens before they hatch.
Oh, no, of course. We have to talk about something at this stage of the season.
We've got to tell that
We can't
story.
wait until race 14 before we start talking about the standing.
Let's just not acknowledge the championship at all. It's a group of friends, just a bunch of friends coming to race cars together. Who's keeping track?
Hey, I mean, if you asked to tune around in season 2, never thinking about the points, but mysteriously kept finding herself near the top of it, and I think as much as a driver might say that they're not looking at it, the further you get along or the higher you get up in that ball, the more it starts to weigh on your mind. Going back to the racing at hand, the top 7 still mostly bunched up within 4 seconds. But I think that damage comes in maybe from those wall taps starting to really pay. The car nearly 5 seconds off Lyle. Matthew 10 also struggling in his first career champ car start, sliding in just behind 96.
Yeah, I think
we're seeing here between the 11 and the 97 for that 5th position. That McBride looking to that low side, maybe to just get some clean air and save the tyre, or maybe to try and clear and get clean air that way.
Well, that's what I was going to get into. We've got a lot of cars at the moment taking that slightly higher middle or top lane just to try and reduce the amount of tyre scrub going through that front right tyre to try and save it a little bit towards the end of the stint, because we're already 38 laps into the stint for Scarlett, Miller and Saucier, so those 3 will be the first to stop. Vogel, Wynn, McBride, Zia, all only 24 laps deep into their stint at the moment. So if you're looking at any drivers to be on that one stop towards the end of the race, it's going to be those folks, because the top 3 have a lot of fuel they need to save if they want to get on the same strategy as those behind them, but they're not trying to at the moment. They are full push right now.
Yeah, so I missed that the top 3 actually didn't come down under that last portion.
It's okay, we all did. Don't beat yourself up about it.
But that makes that number harder. Then we had multiple portions to put it into map 8, and map 8 is a very efficient fuel map in these cars. But they'll have to be thinking more about the fuel save, and the fact that they've not dropped back into the field at all suggests that maybe they're not thinking about it at all. Maybe, like we saw last week from some of the runners, they're just hoping to make the pace right now, and again, that could backfire massively if they've not got one eye on the fuel gauge right now. The lead car who has made a stop was Aaron Vodal, but didn't take tyres, just took fuel. Tyres didn't take too much wear, but as we see the battle, as Lilac Zedis passes that McBride actually,
Probably a battle,
also
yeah.
on fresh tyres up into P6, we're looking at this 4, 5, 6 grouping, maybe lying in wait in that catbird seat to try and make something happen as the strategy unfolds if this race stays green.
If there's anything we know about Lilac, it's that she likes to play the long game and she likes to stay patient, as we just follow Alex Miller, only a couple of tenths behind race leader Indica Scarlett at the moment, perhaps looking at trying to make a pass for the lead. Or is that Indica dropping back a little bit to try and save, maybe drop behind Miller and do a little bit of fuel save? We'll have to wait and see. But Zia, we know, is one of those drivers that likes to be a little bit patient. We've seen a lot of aggression from her so far in this race, but she prefers to be patient and wait for the race to come to her. And she's decided that now is go time. Now is the time she wants to try and make her way up the field as she challenges for P5 on Frankie Wynn on that low line that she's been preferring all day so far. But Wynn just able to carry that momentum on the outside this particular time, but Zia looking to pick up that draft on the entry of 3 and 4, and that shorter line puts us side by side with Wynn on the front stretch, but has to check up a little bit, and that stunts her run into 1 and 2 this time as she looks to the inside again to try and build another opportunity to take that position away from Wynn, perhaps touching the wall on the outside of 1 and 2 there a little bit. Tucked right under that rear wing with that very beautifully coloured 97 Mariah United VRT team car. To the inside again, just getting all that clean air on the nose, taking that shorter run on the inside, but that longer, more banked outside lane, Wynn just taking advantage of all of that extra speed that he's able to carry and holding on to P5 for now.
Yeah, Frankie Wynn hasn't been in the 18s in over 10 laps in that machine. Maybe losing track of that right front a little bit. Lilac Zir had a little bit more life, but of course has to try and make the move. He's going to be burning up the tyre in this battling.
I will say 19th is race pace about now. 19th is race pace.
Yeah, but Lilac Zir set an 18.8 on lap 8.2. Frankie Wynn couldn't get into the 18s, so he's been stuck in the 19.0s, 91s for a while. It's just a couple of tenths difference that is why you're starting to see the 97.4 off the back of the 47 and Lilac Zir start to threaten as we come onto lap 89. Expecting if the leaders want to try and make it on one more stop. Ooh. Oh, as there's a wall touch there from Lilac Zir, has to catch the car and get back to the low side here, but not too much lost. I think lap 113 is about as early as the pit window opens to make it to the end of the race, and that is with additional fuel save after the fact. They've got to make it, what, another 23, 24, 25 laps?
Yeah, we're looking more closest to 30 laps.
As it looks like lap traffic starting to be a factor. Into Scarlett and Alex Miller having to navigate Matthew Kent and Commentator, who are a bit off the pace. We were talking about it earlier. Matthew Kent will hold low, let the 2 cars through, and as Commentator trying to fight to stay on the lead lap would have looked like an event of caution, but is a hold low as well, let into Scarlett through and likely offer the same high side to Alex Miller. As those 2 cars navigating that little speed bump. Now Bryce Socia already on the back of Matthew Kent, and it's going to be the entire field very quickly snaking their way through.
Alex Miller then trying to use the traffic to his advantage to make a move, but he is going to... Ooh, he almost had a look to the inside of 3 and 4, but thought better of it. I think he's trying to save a bit of fuel at the moment, but both TMR cars currently... No, he's got through. Alex Miller crosses the line in the lead as Indica Scarlett drops behind, perhaps to try and... This is that fuel save that I was talking about. Indica Scarlett looks like she might be slotting in behind Alex Miller to try and save some of that fuel that she needs to now. Miller, who's been behind this entire green flag run so far, now takes the lead and leads his first laps of this race. Funnily enough, as his teammate Lilac Zir makes that move for P5 as well and starts to close that gap to Aaron Vogel. Brilliant bit of driving from both TMR drivers.
Synchronized moves. Both making their way forward, and we still have the question mark on the fuel number of really everyone, but especially that top 3 didn't come in under that last caution, or the one before that, I believe. The 4 cars still in the lead lap behind all did and took at least a full tank of fuel, if not tyres as well. And those cars, especially the 89s, they will definitely have their eye on that fuel gauge. The question is, can the cars in this lead trio match and hold on to that? We've seen Ika already drop back more than a second.
Yeah, I was going to say. I theorised that she may have been dropping back for fuel saving, but perhaps she's just struggling with that front right tyre. Because the second Miller got through, the first flying lap that Miller set in that clean air, he was straight down into the 18.9s and setting that, now an 18.8 on the lap just gone by. He's the fastest car in the field right now, and he's looking to try and pull that gap. 1.3 seconds as it currently stands.
So that's a great job in saving that right front tyre to keep that pace in the car and try and pull that gap. What I am worried about here is whether it's a good job of saving fuel now, whether he thinks he's hit his number that he needs to in this stint, or whether just going hell for leather here. and
Well,
letting the 89 cover that sort of alternate strategy option.
it would be a good little bit of teamwork from both TMR drivers, but we are coming up to the end of this stint now. We're looking at that top three, having covered 61 laps on this set of tyres and this fuel tank so far. A couple of cautions thrown in there should extend the pit window by a few laps in this instance, but we don't think it'll be enough to get them close to the end of this race, because they're going to need to go at least past 110 to make that work, and it's not looking likely at this point.
It would be Aaron Vogel who inherits the lead once these three cars pit, and they will have to pit earlier, of course. And then behind, Lilac Zir, Frankie Wynn, and Zach McBride in that lead lap group. Alex Miller now with a 2.4 second advantage, by the way, in a Scarlet really backing things up, and I think maybe in desperation to try and make it to that sort of 110, maybe 113 number to make this fuel save happen. Bryce Socia also backing up the pace a lot, putting a threat from that 47 of Vogel from United. Both him and Frankie Wynn maybe learning from last week and putting themselves on the optimal fuel strategy, and they're both in this group, although Frankie Wynn has dropped off nearly 3 seconds from Lilac Zir, who currently runs in 5th.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow on board with Indica Scarlet and Alex Miller a little bit to try and compare kind of the sounds that their cars are making, as Indica does call for pit lane. But I'm trying to figure out if it's... No, you know what? I think it might be tyres, because Scarlet was about 5 kilometers an hour slower than Miller through turns 3 and 4 on the last lap or so. So I think she's managed to burn off that front right, and I'd say that's an impressive bit of driving from Miller to keep that tyre alive for as long as he did, because he was hounding Scarlet the entire way there and didn't manage to scrub his front left. As we do follow the Alex Miller's teammate, number 89 Lilac Zir, looking to try and get that 4th place spot. Makes
now
that
second.
Happen. Now second,
Because
yeah,
Bryce
he's inherited second
Socia
place.
also down pit road, running out of fuel. Alex Miller now the only car in that lead group who didn't pit, has to make it another 6 or so laps and cannot do it. Alex Miller will be coming down pit road this time, and his teammate Lilac Zir will inherit the race lead.
Yep, briefly
Scarlet now 2 laps down after that pit stop.
But TMR briefly inheriting a 1-2 for the first time since last week there. Lilac Zir, again, just that experienced head on her shoulders, getting on that fuel strategy, topping off when she could. And she didn't rush through the field in this last green flag run. She took it one car at a time and was really patient and slowly built her way up to the front of the field as she comes across the line in first place and does score a lap led. It's following Alex Miller, who's currently sat in the pit box, taking on that fuel, getting those tyres changed from blimp cam, does get rolling again and is back out on the circuit. I'm just watching that gap between him and Indica. He's going to come out a good couple of seconds ahead. So again, strong drive from Alex Miller so far to take that lead in that last stint and maintain it through the pit stop cycle. Gap between him and Indica 1.6 seconds, but gap at the head of the field again between Zir and Vogel another 1.6 seconds. But these two cars are still about 10-15 laps or so away from pitting. But Lilac with a bit of Bryce Socia for company.
Yeah, Socia wanted to get one of those 2 laps back. The very big danger if you're 2 down is you can't take the wave and get back onto the lead lap. You then need that and a lucky dodge. Now, Scarlet and Socia and Miller all 1 lap down as Zach McBride actually came down pit road as well, it seems, and is 2 down. But for those cars, they're now 1 down. A caution would bail them out to get back on the lead lap, but again on a shorter fuel tank. We hit lap 113 for our leaders. Aaron Vogel and Frankie Wynn still holding on to that fuel strategy, and there's a call from Wynn. It's going to be tough to make it this far. It'll be a 65 lap stint, and it's only gone 60 so far, and the 47 will follow 1 lap later. So, still some question mark on fuel for the Mirror United BRT team. They can adjust from here. They can make it. The cars that pit before 110, I think, are very much out of this fight. But those 2, I think, can make the adjustment. But Lilac Zir clocking now lap 115, still on the racetrack, holding all of those cars one lap down. And as we expect from the 89 car, very experienced on fuel mileage, won an NIS race at Pocono just last week by stretching the fuel longer than anyone else. And we're seeing it yet again from the 89 car. I think we'll talk about Richmond if it comes to this sort of strategy. Very similar to that race. And now, clocking the 64th lap of the stint, still out on track, and putting the entire field one lap down right now.
It's speechless. The only word for it is speechless. She's set herself up for this, and she's set herself up to go along on this stint as she does make her way down onto pit lane this time by, which I feel like is a little bit early, but I suppose she doesn't want to have too much tyre offset to those chasing her down. Right under pit lane.
It's later than everyone else.
It's a lot later than everyone else, so she's creating a little bit of offset relative to the rest of to the folks she's going to be fighting for the race win. But the question is it going to be enough come the end of the race? And where does she come out relative to the likes of Aaron Vogel and Zach McBride and Frankie Wynn?
Yeah, of course. Alex Miller, like to take the net race lead, was leading in that early pack. Aaron Vogel is far down, and Frankie Wynn, way further back, I think had a significantly longer stop than everyone else. Alex Miller will inherit the race lead. Like let's say on the apron, will exit and will be passed by Bryce Socia to drop her down off the podium into 4th place, but only has to make it 61, 62 laps on this fuel tank, as Frankie Wynn is back down pit road.
Could that be from a penalty or a bit of damage? Is the seeing something on Wynn's car?
Wait, no, sorry, I'm sorry, no.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. My feed of events was pulled down further than it should have been. That was the stop we talked about earlier.
Cat, pigeons thrown amongst. Had us panicking there for a second.
We've had more than anyone else, and I apologise to any Real United fans who have just given a mild heart attack, but I'm sure they have Frankie's stream up on another monitor, watching over Fristy Frankie or Lithium Fox, and will have seen that I was talking a whole lot of nothing there.
But yeah, as you mentioned, a nice clean handoff of the race lead between the teammates of Alex Miller and Lilac Zia. Miller maintaining that race lead for the moment and actually extending it over Indica Scarlet once again, who pitted about 3 laps sooner than Alex did. He did a great job to save that fuel during the last stint. We don't think it's going to be enough come the end of this race, but he still managed to go 69 laps on that particular tank of fuel, which is it's considering where he was running for the most part of that stint, and considering he was hounding Indica Scarlet for the race lead for most of that run, the fact he managed to go 3 laps longer than her is, yeah, it's a good bit of driving. It's almost like he's learnt a little bit from Lilac already, and they're only in race 2 of their partnership.
Yeah, I'm wondering if some of that came naturally from holding on to that right front, because it's a battle of both his matches. Lilac Zir, who we know is on the preferred strategy, tries to get past by Sosa, but the 07 has no reason not to fight this. Wants to try and force a mistake and get a caution to throw himself back into the mix. And he's going to keep holding this around the outside, try and get the 89 unsettled. It's for position, but obviously on different strategies.
Oh.
And has every right to keep battling this around the outside, and is not going to make Lilac Zir's job easy in the slightest. They're still running side by side, and Bryce will just about clear, but go back on the high side, and Lilac Zir again down low, trying to make this move happen.
Yeah, Lilac wouldn't want Bryce to go easy on her. This is the sort of thing that she loves. This is the sort of thing we all love. The best part about going racing is actually going racing. Like, strategy is a fun way to win a race, but if you can do it on track, fighting side by side with other drivers, that's where you really get your kicks out of it. So, as much as Lilac's going to be a little bit frustrated that she wasn't able to get by Saucier on this particular occasion, I think she's still going to be in a good mood because of how much fun she just had for the last few laps there.
I think we saw the cool head prevail a little bit, even like a lane and a half up, to allow Saucier to maybe have a bit of a wiggle away from the wall and still avoid contact. Lilac knows she's in the catbird seat ahead of everyone who has a chance of making the fuel save happen, as Bodil and Frankie Wynn have dropped back a bit. Maybe looking to stretch that number a little bit longer on this stint, Lilac Day doesn't have to save quite as much, and knows that the 3 cars ahead have next to no chance of making this happen without a caution interrupting proceedings. She doesn't have to force the move. She knows that discretion's the better part of valor here, and she's dropped back a little bit, looking to continue on with her way. As Commentator and Matthew Kent are still in a fight. They are... Actually, no, as Commentator comes down pit road to take the final stop of the race. Those 2 cars both touch down, and Commentator actually spins it into the inside wall and loses maybe a piece of the front wing, maybe not. But another piece to on pit road of Carmen Sienna, who was already 2 laps down, and comes in for her final stop of the night. And it will still be a top 10, of course, after the calamities of the previous restart, but not the day that 96 was looking for.
So the fight for the net lead in this race starting to hot up a little bit. We had Bryce Saucier and Lilac Zia going side by side for what should be the inherited race win position once the 2 cars in front of them do pit. These 2 cars
pit as well.
Oh goodness, yeah, you're right. Never mind. Lilac Zia very much in the hot seat then, well ahead of everyone on her strategy, but Saucier not trying to make it easy for her. Of course, these two cars fighting for the race win last week in Michigan. Saucier and his teammate Nicholas Presley coming out on top of Lilac Zia and her teammate Alex Miller on that particular occasion. But the way things stand at the moment, that could be completely flipped. We have Alex Miller and Saucier on the same strategy, who both still have to pit, with Miller a good almost 5 seconds in front, and Zia in the absolute hot seat to take this race win after the strategy shakes out with 44 laps left.
And I would be fascinated to know what the plans are in that Mirai United voice call right now. I know that a lot of people, they might be keeping it a little bit hush-hush, not wanting to give too much away for anyone who is listening in. But both those cars hit 1 lap apart, but with about 65 to go. They've got to do a little bit of magic. And I'd be curious to know if that's their plan, or if they are looking to just make splash and dash and shorten that final stop as much as possible.
65 laps is I'm sure you know, Olivia, a very difficult fuel number to hit here at Iowa, with the slightly reduced fuel tank size down to 13.9 gallons, 52.5 liters. So it's that one thing that we're keeping our eye on at the moment. But I tell you what, the pace of Indica Scala has really dropped off in the latter half of this race. I think the track temperature is only up 1 degree Celsius and a couple of degrees Fahrenheit as to where it was at the start of that race. But is she trying to fuel save to get to the end of this race? Because she's now massively under threat from Saucier and Zia.
I'd expect it more to be just decide to go into full push mode, trying to make that additional stop work, and maybe just taking too much out of the time as Bryce Saucier does make it pass. That is a pass for net race position as well as on track, but he's going to try and fight it again around the outside and actually grazes the wall, and that'll let the 89 Lilac Zia through as well. And I think she'll try and make it 2 for 1, gets to the inside of Bryce Saucier, but again, that high side working well for the 07 in defense.
She needs to keep that right front tire alive now, and she knows that. It's why she hasn't gone full attack on Bryce Saucier. She had that one go 15 laps or so ago, and I think that's probably, traffic notwithstanding, the only aggressive push she's going to try and make to take that position from Saucier, because she knows he still has to pit. She knows she doesn't have to pit. She doesn't have to overtake the 07 to take this race win. So Zia, that head of experience, that screwed on straight skull of hers, just holding back, not pushing for anything. We saw how little she was rushing to get up to the back of Indica Scala and Saucier on that particular occasion. And the move was kind of presented to her on, I wouldn't say a silver platter, because that would be too easy, but maybe a lead plate. It's just a lead plate. She was handed the move on a red plate, a lead plate, but chose not to go for it because, you know, it could have ended in disaster. As we all know, tomatoes are poisonous.
Whatever you say. We talked about this last week, though. you might have that sort of doubt start setting your ceiling. We're in the final 35 laps of this race, and I know, especially if like I said, doesn't race with many overlays. I think in the past, mostly for performance reasons, couldn't really have additional programs running on the machine. Now, I think just out of habit of being that sort of more experienced driver, used to just the clean look of iRacing running on its own, but might not have the exact number of the lap that these cars ahead pit, and you didn't know she went the longest of anyone. Didn't know she's got the upper hand on strategy, but there might be that little bit of doubt of maybe these cars have an opportunity to save. Maybe I've misjudged it a little bit. And she's got to keep that confidence and go stick to the plan, let things play out as they will. As we get an update from the pit bots of the 96 crew, that car has been stayed in pit road, and that'll be day done for Car and Sienna, finishing P9, and Bryce Sosa gives it up.
Yeah. Very gallant. Yeah, he knows. He knows he's got to pit. He's putting in this time. He did his best to hold Zia back. He did his best to try and force an error, but she's way too experienced for that. She's not going to be forced into a mistake if she's not trying to push. Zia slots it into P2, nice and easy, as Saucier comes down for his final stop of the race. It's back to a TMR 1-2. The gap at 4 seconds with Alex Miller still yet to pit one more time.
And into Scarlet immediately to cover off, sees that Saucier wants to split these stints in half and get as much time as possible. I mentioned that 6-6 car may be struggling with right front, sees that move and goes, that's a great idea. I am absolutely going to take you up on that. And it leaves just Alex Miller and actually Zach McBride, who has gone a lap down, who did make that later pit stop under caution but couldn't make the fuel save happen. They're the only cars now out who have that really long stint of 40 plus laps so far. Again, it's 33 laps on the track now, 34 for Lilac Zir, 37 and 38 for the Mirai United duo of Aaron Vogel and Frankie Wynn. They've got some ground to make up on the fuel save, but it's not out of the realm of possibility for them.
So, if you're Alex Miller right now, you're 4 seconds out in front, you know you can do a 69 lap stint in the slipstream where you've got more of an opportunity to save more fuel, and you've just seen the two cars that were 4 seconds behind you pit for their final stop. They're going to be on fresh tyres, and he knows he's going to have to stop again. So when does he choose to make that stop? Does he do it in the next couple of laps to react, or does he wait until the end of his stint to see if he can get to the end on whatever it is he's doing, or hold out for a caution? Because he's in a really strong position right now.
I don't think it's calculation of getting to the end. I think it's, do you roll the dice on trying to get a caution, as Zach McBride does choose to follow that duo in? I think it's a question of, do you gamble on there being a caution to bail you out and to put you on the right strategy? If not, I think you have to pull the trigger as early as possible to cover off that undercut. As actually Frankie Wynn brings it down pit road, could not make the fuel save happen. That's one question mark we had. The 47 pace has dropped off massively, running 19.3s, 19.4s, 19.5s in that last stint. Might be trying to extend, and that team might also be splitting their strategies, like we're seeing from TMR, with one car trying desperately to hold on for what could be a second place finish, and the other biting the bullet and trying to race it back on track to as high of a position as possible. And actually Frankie will come out directly behind the 47, and probably a very quick move to get one lap back and to give that 47 some slipstream maybe.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the average paces of a lot of the cars on track at the moment. Alex Miller over the last 5 laps or so running a 19.032. Zia on a 19.047, so really similar pace from these two guys, but the cars that have pitted already are way down in the mid-18s. So I think if you're Alex Miller, you need to make that call to pit soon if you want to hold on to your position, because you've got time. You had a little bit of time in hand to try and hold on, but that time to go is now, because Indica Scarlet has just gone around the outside of Lilac Zia to try and hunt back down one of those laps. So it is do or die time for the 49.
Yeah, I mean, Bryce Socia more urgently is in the rearview mirror of Alex Miller, saying, I know I'm 2 laps down, but guess how much time a pit stop loses here? It's about 2 laps. Once that happens, this could be a very different battle indeed. And yeah, I think Alex Miller maybe is hoping for that caution, but we've run the last 100 laps under green or so. It's a risky move to make. We're in the final
16, 17 laps. It's got to come quick for Alex Miller as he's on the 55th lap of the stint. And this is all under green. We say 69 laps, but that's under caution.
With Slipstream, yeah. If I'm him, I pit.
Big ass.
If I'm him, I pit.
Do you want to hop into the team call?
No, I think that would be interfering. I'm very much not. I'm not making that call for them. That is not up to me. I'm just a commentator tonight. I just have to bite my fingernails and watch it happen. It's Alex holding on for a race win. He knows that if something happens, it's a big if. He knows that if something happens, he's in with a shot at this win. He's in a position in a late race caution to take the victory here tonight, and he wants to stay in that position. He's not here to finish second. He's not here to finish third. He is here to make a statement and put his stamp on this championship, and that's what he's trying to do. But the question is that at a detriment to his championship charge? Could he be putting a really strong finish in the championship at risk by not pitting?
He's trying to hold on a wind and a prayer, it feels like, right now. Again, we've got Liza and Aaron Vogel trying to make this fuel save work, seemingly. I think we've got good dodge on the 89 making it happen. Letting Zatmut ride through, not really trying to fight too much. Knowing that this is in hand. Alex Miller is in a much more threatening prospect because we're seeing Bryce Sosa now has unlapped and is now ahead of Alex Miller.
Yeah.
And he can see that directly, and that's the thing, and this is the call. With 10 laps to go, I feel like this is too late, but Alex Miller needs to nail his pit entry down on the apron, holds it nice and square, and gets it down to pit road speed perfectly. This could be a fuel-only stop. That could be a way to shave off a few seconds, but it won't be many. And with that, Lilac Zir inherits the race lead that we've been basically putting on her shoulders for the past 50 or 60 laps. The inevitable has happened. The question now is, can Aaron Vogel stretch that fuel to make it a second place on just a second career start for the Mario United driver? And how does this battle unfold between all the cars who had to take 2 stops to the end? Alex Miller still down on pit road. Bryce Socia
It's going to be close.
through the tri-oval now as Miller's on the apron.
You know
and Miller
what?
will hit the blue cone, but Bryce is going to have to run through 3 and 4 here. And it was a 4-tyre stop for the 49. So
Alex Miller
defend
holds
just a couple
on
of
though.
corners here. It could still be a team podium, a 1-3 for TMR. Just a week after they finished 3-4. But we're down to 8 laps remaining.
We were putting that pressure on Alex for about 10 or 15 laps there. Oh, you should pit, you should pit, you should pit. Then Bryce Saucier slips past him like, well, Alex, you've lost your opportunity for the podium here. You should probably pit now. And what he does, he blows all our expectations out of the water, pits when he wants to pit, splash of fuel, takes those 4 tyres, and then pulls a second gap on Bryce Saucier as if he's not even there. Over a second and a half now. Unbelievable. Completely out of nowhere.
It doesn't mean we were wrong. A little bit of a wall tap finish to Scarlett, but that just actually puts her right in front of Aaron Vogel, who will be seeing that car punching a hole in the air and saying, "Oh, thank God!" As Lilac Zir, less than 5 to 24 to go, and actually is close to lapping the 47 Aaron Vogel. Alex Miller now only 9 seconds behind, and with the aggression of that fuel save needed from the 47 car, Miller might still have a shot at P2 here. Bryce might have a shot at P3, and Initial Scarlett is going to be looking to do as much as possible. That car running 19.7 that last lap has been down into the 20s at one point.
But I'm actually assuming we'll be waving past the 89, thinking, yes, one fewer lap I have to run. I don't care if I finish a lap down. If it's P2, it's P2. And here comes Lila Zir with coming to 2 to go to lap the field in that TMR
Wow.
89 car.
Wow.
Has to make it just 1 3/4 miles. Make that about 1.5 miles on the back stretch. Aaron Vogel now has the same thing, but no!
He pits! Aaron Vogel pits! He can't make it to the end of this race! Alex Miller, with that last final stop, the number 49, is gonna move up into P2 and make this a TMR 1-2 on the final lap of the race. Wow!
White flag is out, coming through turns 3 and 4 for the final time. Does Lila Zir have the fuel? Of course she does. It is a 1-2 for Taylor Mills Racing. As Alex Miller takes the checker flag 1 lap down, Bryce Socia will salvage what can for NPM and bring home a podium. Ineta Scarlett will come round P4 with Aaron Vogel still in the box, it seems, finishing in P5. Frankie Weir takes check to P6, Zach McBride P7, and Matthew Kent P8, our final finisher. And that's how much fuel Lilac had, still enough to burn it down here in Newton, Iowa. And Alex Miller joins the party, deservingly so. A 1-2 finish for TMR a week after they were just denied at Michigan. And that will vault them to the top of the standings.
The opportunity to have this result stripped away from them last week by that late race safety car. Again, brilliant bit of running from NPEM to make that 1-2 happen in Michigan. But what a way to turn it around for the two TMR drivers. The next week, nailing home that 1-2 in only their second race together as teammates. It's hard to not get excited about it.
Well, we're going to have some familiar names coming into the booth in the next few minutes here. I think that might be the last of the fuel out of the 89 car, using every last drop to celebrate. And we'll roll it back and maybe behind the wall. Or maybe the crew can roll it back. The hard work's been done. A fantastic showing for TMR. Splitting the strategies and making it work to perfection. And actually, Aaron Vogel, I think, might have sped on pit entry.
Oh no.
Has been put 4 laps down despite, completing lap 156 coming through the pit lane. And will actually drop down to P7 after all said and done. A bit of inexperience again rearing its head for the rookies in this series. I mean, Scarlett still will be very happy with P4, but went hell for leather and couldn't make the fuel strategy work. And it'll be 5th and 7th for Mirai United VRT. Still a strong showing in a rookie campaign. But they'll be left wondering once again, what could have been? What could have been? And yeah, confirmation. Stop hold 40 for speeding on pit entry on that stop as Lilac Zir was sweeping around to take the white flag.
Devastation.
It's rough to say, but it would have been better for that car to run out on track.
Mm-hmm.
It would have only dropped to P6, I think, with that. Or maybe P5.
So an intriguing strategy battle at the end of that race there, with only 9 cars on track to keep the entertainment in there right at the end. So many question marks hung over that race for that final 100 and... What was it? 100 and... I'm trying to do the maths here in my head.
About 120, I think.
It was a 120 lap run to the finish, all under green flag, with 2 different strategies at play, and
122, exactly.
100. Goodness me.
And that's the thing, we saw the field get thinned out under that final caution with a mistake from Edson Santos. That'll be probably the defining moment of the race, but once that field was thinned out, there was nothing separating these drivers from making the race work the way they wanted to, and we see cars
opt for both options and make the best out of it. And yeah, huge congratulations to all of our podium finishers there, but especially Lyle Zier, who it's not the first time it's happened in Champ Car, but it's certainly a rarity, putting the entire field one lap down at the checkered flag.
So I think it is about time we start dragging some of the drivers up here for their interviews. So, as always, usually go in reverse order from third to first. So, shall we get a hold of Bryce Saucier and try and get him in there?
Absolutely.
Bryce, this is Taylor in the ABN broadcast booth. Do you have a copy?
Yes, I do.
Welcome back to the podium. You're second in as many weeks at a track that was very different to the one you took that second place at last week. Take us through it.
I was a little, I guess, less eventful than last week was. Last week had definitely was more. It was more. I had more pitch strategy, and there was a lot more passing last week than there was this week. It still ended up being a fuel strategy race, which is cool. I didn't think Lilac could save that much fuel, to be honest, but it worked out still to get to third. So nice, good points for me. Fortunately, happened to Nick, of course, but yeah, a good race on that.
Yeah, passing proving very difficult here at Iowa tonight, but you were hounding Alex Miller for a good chunk of that race and even managed to jump him for a good part in the middle there. How did you eventually get that move done? Because it couldn't have been easy.
No, I just at that point he was running the bottom before he had moved up to the top, and I was so much better on the top than anybody really was on the bottom. I could get, there was so much more momentum that I got enough beside him that I could just use the momentum to get by him. But he just had better tire wear than I did. Mine were gone by the end usually by about 20 to 30 laps into the run, so he just could drive away on the tires.
Yeah, no, fair enough. It was a brilliant bit of driving from you when you did eventually get by him, and you were able to hold on for quite a long time until that later race caution. But in the end, it did come down to a strategy call with that last caution, with that big wreck at Iowa. That big wreck on the restart, Iowa's big one, which is a rarity for a track so small. I don't know. Tell us what you were thinking after that wreck and what ultimately drove you down the decision to not pit and give yourself that longer run towards the end.
I thought we might still have the wheel spin problems, and we might have maybe one more. We go a little longer on the run. And that I like the extra track position. Didn't really like being in the pack. I could save more tire with the less air in front of me. So I just wanted track position all day.
It was a very well-run race. I think you do hold on to P2 in the Drivers' Championship after that, so congratulations on that. If you want to thank anyone, shout anyone out, the floor is yours to do it, and congratulations again on another podium.
Thank you. I got to thank Nick Pressey. Fortunately, he couldn't be up here with me this week, but thank him for the opportunity he gives me every week. And my spotter, Matthew Stephen, he keeps me, guides me through these races.
Thank you very much for your time, Bryce. And again, congratulations. That was an awesome run race, dude.
Thank you.
So I think we're going to follow up on something we did last week, where we dragged NPEM up here together to interview both of the drivers at the same time after their 1-2 finish. But I think for the sake of fairness, I'll let you lead this one, Olivia.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great to talk to Alex Miller, because obviously was the one driver left out of celebrations last week. But we have a brilliant P2 finish, and of course, the 1-2 led by Lyle Zier with Alex Miller behind. Congratulations, Taylor Mills Racing, exercising the demon from just last week, and what a way to do it.
So about me being bad at short tracks in this car.
Well, we'll start with that. Talk me through that sort of learning process of getting a handle on this very tricky Iowa Speedway, and really starting second, finishing second. You had it under control the whole race, but what was that process in practice to get a feel for it and get that confidence that you can go and take this one?
I kind of just did some practices with like the AI because the AI on iRacing is pretty dang good, and then getting advice from people on the team, kind of seeing what to do, and it just all worked out, I guess.
I do remember an exchange in Twitch chat earlier today where you're like, "How do I do this?"
Yeah.
Hopefully, I was helpful. I don't know. And then of course Lilac. I mean, start here from Carmen. The last time a driver won by a lap in Champ Car competition was in Season 3 at Dover, and it was the 89 car of Lilac Zir. How does it feel to do it again? And I mean, just let everyone know, how do you make these fuel strategies happen?
Well, I just try to look at what's the outside chance of a fuel strategy working, and like if it's 5 laps away from what if I think I'm gonna be 5 laps short, then I'll go for it, and I can try to save those 5 laps. And then if it doesn't work, I can pivot, But if you do it the other way and go hard, and then you try to save at the end, it just doesn't work usually. You have to be thinking ahead of the game and kind of plan out what you want to do before the end of the race. But honestly, the reason that I did it this time was because of that big crash. I thought, well, we were probably not going to be able to do it from the previous caution, and it's been 10 laps and half the field's gone, so now it's going to go green the rest of the race. So I figured I might as well try it. But I had to do that anyway because I also almost crashed at the start because of that same wheel spin issue. I almost lost it on the start, and I lost all my track position, which I wasn't even that good in the first place because I messed up qualifying. I was really mad at myself for that. And I thought I should have been up there the whole time, and if I can't show the pace in qualifying, then I wanted to do it in the race. But, strategy works too, just as good. But I feel like even when I was saving, I had good pace. I had better, tire management than I expected, because it's really hard to do that here. I just played around with the adjustments in the car and actually was loose most of the race rather than burning the right front off it. It's really hard to pass. It's just about track position, and I figured what better track position than one less pit stop than everybody else.
Well, speaking of
Wow.
strategy, Alex, we had you as the last driver on that alternate. Well, I say alternate. The alternate off the race winning strategy. You stayed out a long way longer than everyone else that was on your strategy. And I'd be lying if I said that in the booth we believed that you were going to be able to make that work and come out in front of Bryce Saucier. But what on earth did you do in that last part of the run to take that 4-tire stop, take that splash, and still come out about a second in front of Saucier, who was hunting you down from only 4 seconds back?
For the whole race, I kind of picked up on. I think he was just burning his tires off way more than I was, because I spent a lot of my time lifting, and I think he was just maybe he burnt his stuff off trying to come out in front of me, and I just made it work.
Yeah, fair enough. Nice, easy explanation. Thank you very much. That was, a really impressive bit of driving. You were looking after that right front all day, not really challenging for the lead until you needed to. It was really in that last 120 lap run or so where it seemed like your strategy really came alive.
Yeah. It was alive until it wasn't.
Well, we were talking the whole time about, if a caution comes out, it's bad for one and good for the other. But then at the end, there was a point where if a caution came out, we both could have pit. It still came out in 22, so it wouldn't have mattered. Just would have been a different order of which TMR car won the race, maybe. But it was really fun to work together and strategize that. And credit to Alex for making it work as good as he did on on the strategy that had to pit an extra time.
Well, again, to touch on that one more time, of course, Alex, you did come out about 10 seconds behind Aaron Vogel in P2, and he pitted for his last fuel stop on, I think it was the final lap of the race. So up to that point, I assume that you will have thought, oh, I guess the 1-2 is over. But how did you feel? How did you both feel when you saw that second place car pit and open up the opportunity to take the 1-2?
I passed that car about a lap or two before that and said, "Oh, they look like they're slowing down. They might be short or trying to make it with a big lifts and coasts." And I guess they just couldn't pull it off. So yeah, I told Alex, "Go get him."
And I did.
Well, a fantastic performance. Move you up into the lead of the team's championship by 19 points. Alex, that puts you third and just 2 points off the back of Bryce Socia for second in the championship. And Lilac, an 11-point lead now at the top of the board. In a week's time, we head to the third different type of the third different track car configuration that we have in this series. We head to Homestead Miami for the road course. We'll start with Lilac. How are you going to approach that challenge and try and hold on to that championship lead?
I mean, I'm pretty comfortable at that track. I think it's fun. I'm not fast, but it's I really like ripping around the oval banking on the second part of the lap and using push to pass up there. That's really fun. Just gonna try to save tires, not wheel spin off the corner, not lock up the brakes, and just keep it on the road.
And Alex, I'm sure a lot of unfamiliar experience, especially in no, I'll take that back. How are you going to approach Homestead here?
I'm just gonna try to survive. I'm not really known for my road course prowess. I'm kind of an oval merchant in these cars, so I'm just gonna see what I can get. I mean, I got a top 10 at Charlotte last season just by doing that, so.
And hey, half the track is an oval, so that helps out already.
Yeah, obviously.
Well, once again, congratulations on that fantastic team result. We'll start with you, Alex. If there's anyone a shout out, say thank you to. The floor is yours. Congratulations on P2 here at Iowa.
I mean, really, you shout out Taylor for giving me this ride to kind of keep me in this league, and I guess shout out Lilac. If I was going to lose on my first win, I guess I needed to be a teammate. So.
And Lilac's there, winning by a lap once again. The floor's yours, and take a bow.
Well, it's a relief to get another one after coming close last week and last season and not getting any. And I was like thinking, what, it's hard to get these. You don't ever know when you're going to get another one. Credit to Alex for making it tough on me there.
Of course, thank you both for joining us for a chat. Congratulations, and hopefully we'll see you again next week at Homestead.
Go for it, go.
Thanks. Go for it, go.
It may be biased speaking, but it's hard to not be happy for both of them because they had such an up and down season last season. Of course, we saw Lilac come into form in the last half, and the stat was 3 of the last 6 pole positions coming into the final round. And Alex managed
wild
to
like that, yeah.
Yeah, and Alex managed to get his foot on the podium in one of the final few races as well. So those two, as I say, as much as they had that up and down season, they really came into their own in that last half or so and showed the form they were actually capable of. So to see them both put together in the same team, performing, bouncing off each other, helping each other, I think has really taken them both to that next level, and it's shown because they've been in competition for the race win in both of the first 2 rounds of the season, and at least Lilac's confident she could take it into the next round as well. But Alex, of course, admitting that he might struggle a bit more on a road course. So From a completely unbiased perspective, I'm really excited to see how this championship unfolds because it could be really, really close.
And remember, he did say he'd struggle at the short tracks as well, and look where that ended up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, final rundown of the results to go through. It will be Lilat Zir and Alex Miller, a 1-2 for Taylor Mills Racing, with Bryce Socia bringing MPEM their third podium in the first 2 races. Inisha Scarlett started first and led the most laps of this affair, but will have to settle for a 4th place finish. And Frankie Wynn for Mirai United VRT will ran out the top 5. Zach McBride comes home P6 with Aaron Vogel line at P7, with Matthew Kent and Carmen Sienna the final survivors from the massive wreck under that final caution, which took out the 4 of Nick Wheeler. It took out Eli Sassock, Joshua Gaiman, Edson Santos, Lily Pelletier Sharp, and Nicholas Pressey, with Zach Mitchell, Caleb Carter, and Scott Sprinkle rounding out your 18-car field here tonight at Iowa. And as we do look towards the team, or towards the championship we mentioned, it is Lilat Zir, Bryce Socia, and Alex Miller, your podium from today, on the top 3 positions in a slightly different order. Nicholas Pressey did manage to hold on to P4 with the help of that incredible run last week at Michigan. And it's Inisha Scarlett. Impressive first 2 races for her puts her in 5th place in the standings ahead of the Mirai United duo of Frankie Wynn and Aaron Vogel, Joshua Gaiman, Zach McBride, and Carmen Sienna, your top 10 in the driver's standings. Taylor Mills Racing, Little Pressey Motorsport, and Mirai United VRT, the top 3 in the teams.
I guess the most exciting part about the start of a new season is watching everything shuffle completely between the first couple of few races, as some drivers perhaps finishing out of position due to things that happen in the race or anything like that, as those first points roll in. I think it's the most exciting part of the season. I'd love to see it happen because everyone's everywhere and you don't know where everyone's pace is going to be relative to each other, and it's always a surprise to see who ends up where by the midpoint of the season. But I think we're going to see a lot more shuffling before that halfway point,
especially next week. Again, our first road course of the season. If you thought the jump from Michigan to Iowa was something, imagine seeing these cars turn right as well. It's going to be a huge, even more downforce onto the front and rear wings to make these cars stop on a dime, especially for some of those hairpins at Homestead. That run down through turn 1 and turn 2 is going to be brutally tough to control. And I mean, I really can't wait to see them happen, but we'll throw it back to our producer and our good friend David Kreutz to round out the show and give final thoughts of a very exciting night here in Iowa.
I know I said at the top of the broadcast some of these drivers would do better if attrition did not come around to play, but that it did, and we saw more than half the field down and out just about by the time we got to the third of the waypoint. But that didn't make for a bad race, and strategy incredible from that point on. And it's a big shout out, of course, to Lilat Zir and Alex Miller, who put together in their own different ways a strategy to get to the race win, even though they did it so differently. And the gap was admittedly 1 lap apart for the both of them. The team coming out with a 1-2, and to open up the season, it's been team control for the top 2 spots on the podium. And maybe we'll see another similar example next week. Of course, completely different style of racing as we keep switching back and forth. Tonight from Iowa, we'll be moving on again, and this time around it's going to be to Miami, but the road course. So our first road course, so to speak, of the season, but it's also our first Roval. We went to Charlotte last season with Austin Farr winning, and maybe we'll see another driver come through with their first of the season. It would be most likely anyway, because we do have a pretty good road course racers. Now, with that being said, we'll tune in next Wednesday night and figure out who's got what it takes. A big congratulations to Lilat Zir, Alex Miller, and Bryce Socia pulling through on the podium, and Bryce now holding the championship lead. I've been David Kreutz, producing alongside your host for tonight's broadcast, Taylor Mills and Olivia Hayward. And if you enjoyed tonight's coverage, check out all ABN social links you're watching on the ABN Studios YouTube. Make sure to follow the Twitch and other social media platforms to stay up to date with all broadcasts. throughout the week. We thank you all for watching live on ABN coverage from the virtual Iowa Speedway, and we hope you have a fantastic night.
We'll be right back.